Hi everybody, good evening. Hi John, good to see you mate, or good to talk to you. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a good weekend. I bet you've been doing a lot of modelling, the same as I have actually. You're the only one. William, good evening to you, sir. Good to see you, mate, or good to talk to you. Hope you're well. Just turn the volume down on this. I bet you've been doing a lot of modelling. There we go. So I don't have to listen to myself. Good evening, Wendy. Nice to see you here. Judy won't be with us tonight. She's out to dinner. So she sends her apologies and says hello to everybody. So you can take it that I've said that and pass that on. Michael, good evening to you, sir. Looking forward to tonight. I do love painting egrets. Just weathered a rake of silver bullet china tank. Oh, wow. You've been busy. I took control of a brand new airbrushing kit today. My old stuff is 35-40 years old, so it's about time I treated myself to a new airbrush. And I've been playing with that, and then I've been weathering some track, but all very, very badly, so I've got to redo some of it, unfortunately. But there you go, I did video it, and it'll probably go out as a video on how not to weather track. We shall see. There you go. Right, where are we? Up to 10. That's good. Been a delightful weekend weather-wise. Been quite lucky, I think. Just looking around for a few smaller brushes to do what I want to do. That'll do nicely, I think, and possibly that one. Right, where are we? Right, where are we? Nearly 7. I got a Harden Steinbeck, John. It's the Infinity CR Plus. It's a good one. I got it because I wanted some extra things that my old airbrushes I use. I've got a series of Quanapoir and Aero Pro 63s and stuff like that. They date back 35-40 years. And they're great, but you know, I've done all my airbrushing with the old ones, and I think it's now time I sort of came up to the 21st century. And I had a long chat with the guys selling these, and in fact the Harder Steinbeck and the Water are all owned by the same parent company, believe it or not. I had no idea, but they are all one of the same company, albeit different lines of product. I haven't actually airbrushed a painting for 35 years, I think. 30 years, certainly. Maybe 35. Glennis, good evening to you. Ben, good evening to you, sir. We are slowly creeping up. Excuse me, it's been a long day. I hope I'm not going to yawn all the way through your lovely stream, guys. Hopefully not. It won't happen. Once I get into it, we'll be fine. I'm sure. But I do hope everyone's had a stunning weekend. I know I have. And shame that well, actually, no, I've got an extra day off tomorrow. So I will be doing some filming for the studio, for the gallery, or for YouTube and Patreon. And I will also be doing a little bit more on my track and trying to remedy where I went wrong, and save. Otherwise I've got to pull a load of track up. And I'd rather not do that. We shall see. But it happens, doesn't it, John? It happens. We change our mind, mate. And we end up pulling tons of track up. I remember you recently, you pulled half your flipping layout on the other side of Piccadilly on your end gauge. So yeah, it happens. No, it's not. I've got no problems with doing an airbrush painting, but it can't easily be done in 2 hours, I don't think. I'd have to have all the pigments, and it'd take me 2 hours to keep cleaning from one to another. But a lot of fun. I might consider it. I might well consider it, but I won't promise that. Not yet. Okay, I better get started, hadn't I? We're a little few under numbers, but hopefully we will build. Right. Little glug before we start. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Okay, egret. Now the picture you're looking at is the picture we're doing. Not a problem with that. But I'm going to make a few alterations. I was going to do it on that format. And to be honest, I like this natural canvas, to be honest with you. But, yeah, he did have a problem with track. Kept pulling the damn stuff up. And so I couldn't get the long thinner format that I'd fancied for this painting. So I decided to go for the standard 12 by 16. So what that means is I don't really want tons of sky or tons of watery top or bottom. So I've got to make a different decision about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bird somewhere about here. I'm just going to put a little tap from somewhere about there maybe to about here. So quite small but quite present. And then I'm going to bring the reeds only so far back. In fact, what I might do is bring the bird back to here actually. Somewhere there. So it's a little closer to the back. And then I'll bring the reeds down. I want the reeds to actually end there for this to work. Because you need a little bit of water in front. So that's where the reeds will go. And they will get larger this way and this way. So they fill up this void a bit more. That's the plan. That's what I've decided to do. So that's where my egret's going to sit. Somewhere about here. Any questions about the process, anything at all, stick them in the chat. Anybody who's watching, if you've got a question, stick it in the chat. Hopefully I'll see it. And if I don't, I've got people like Wendy who will spot it, and I will spot them telling me to answer it or whatever. I don't know, something like that. Okay, so I'm just going to draw with umber, and I'm just going to start looking at our bird. And I want to get the angle of the head correct, so I might take it to about there. Make the angle. Lovely shape. Now these, like all animals, have long necks, 7 vertebrae in their neck. And because they have a long neck, those vertebrae show up quite distinctly. So I'm just going to put in what will be the chin. And we'll come down here for a nice slope and then off to the beak, so like that. Now anything that's not right we can correct further on. I want to bring that into there. Now I think I need more head, so this area here has got to change, because I don't really want to make the head too much bigger than I've already got it. Maybe a tad, a little bit more. Jerky little movements of the brush like so will give me the marks that I'm seeking. Make it move a little more with a little bit of zest in there. Keith, good evening to you, sir. I could do the bird's reflection. I could, but it's too far over. It really doesn't show up. And so I probably won't do that, if I'm honest with you. I'm just going to play around with this head, because the head to me is key to the rest of the picture. Terms of size, certainly. So I'm going to put the very sharp beak in there, head coming down there, eye which is at the almost at the end of that beak in a sense. So I'm going to put that in there and the eye there. So we've still got not enough head behind. I'm going to bring that back a little bit, like so, to give me much more there. The eye is way too big, so too is the part of the beak that goes into the head, but the brush is a little unforgiving in terms of size, so I'm just going to work with that for a minute, like so. Nice shape, comes a little flatter than that, little bulb there. So we've got the eye, the head, and we're starting to cook now with this. That's good. Nice thick drop there to there. Now you can start to see the segmentation of the vertebrae, 1, 2, 3 to the next stem, and then coming this way, and that sort of gives that jagged sort of U-bend, like a toilet U-bend or sink U-bend, something like that. And then just the shoulders to the wings coming down through there like so, and that tapers off like that. And then you've got the lovely breast feathers, these lovely plumes. They also have them on the back of the head during breeding. So this is, I gotta say, where are we? If I can figure this one out. No, not off the top of my head, I can't. But it would have been probably late autumn or somewhere. It would have probably shed most of those plumes. It has them over the back like so, but the ones that are off the crown and down the back would have probably gone by this time. I think I'm right in saying that. There's the head, there's the beak. I think the proportion of that's not too bad. I want to push that plume out a little bit, like that. And then of course we've got the beautiful array of grasses and sedges that form this little bit of dry outcrop into the swampy areas of the marsh, which is of course Oare Marshes. So not so much on the back of mine, and you've been told right at the start that that's the reason why, so that I can get the drop from here, which is still quite high here on the firmness of the bank, all the way down to nothing back in here, and the reverse of course coming into the reflections here. So now how am I going to paint this? Well, because there's a lot of spiky dark bits over a predominantly load of light bits, so we have to go back to where I was working in terms of these colours when we've done other oils or watercolours, come to that, where we're working on negative spaces. So I'm just going to start literally painting some of these shapes in, and I hope, and I say this with every intention of it being so, I do hope that we get or come very, very close to something that we want. Now I'm just drawing these shapes in. If I try and put these over the water, they really are going to just become milky. Now it may be that many of them get obliterated when I do come down with the water. It may be that the water gets contaminated by these darks. It's a bit of a trade-off. One could always wait for this to dry, and then once the water is dry you can go over with these. That's quite a nice way of doing it. But if I was doing this in the studio, maybe I would do that. I don't know. I would have to think seriously about that, because I like to finish things in one session where possible. Not always possible, I know, but I'm going to try and meet that with regards to this. So bear with me. Can I keep a semi line through here, nice and level? It will disappear, but it's giving me some sense of where I'm taking these reeds down to thereabouts. It's not set in stone, doesn't have to be exact. It's some are going to be lower than others or closer. But I'm just trying to give myself a working plan for these. And I think that works quite nice. It's a little hideaway, it's a little edge on some hard mud that has grown up despite the marshiness of the surroundings and the change in water levels. It stayed dry enough to form for grasses, and of course the bird uses it as a fantastic advantage point to chase after invertebrates in the water. In this case it's probably just using it to preen. I have no idea. I'm just coming in with a sense of dark, and I ought to really up the game brush wise, so let's come in with a much bigger brush to do the job. Don't want to make it too wet. Now if I get too wet with the paint, then it's going to be hard to come over any of the lights or any of the darks with lights by getting too wet with this paint. Good evening, Sue. I see you just popped up there. Nice to see you this evening. Okay, so I'm going to suggest that there and just bring that down a tad. A little bit of that black, just let that pop in. Not going to hurt. And of course these are going to be fuzzier in terms of reflection than everything we see above. Some of these are not so fuzzy. You can see in the waters that some are. So I'm just going to make a few sort of very random suggestive marks. And that's the thing, suggestive marks, not actual marks. I'm not trying to paint actuals. I'm seeing the general, and I'm laying in some colours that I feel that will be suggestive of the reeds and the growth of stuff in the vicinity at this point. Becomes quite general. I think we'll leave that part there. The bird I'm happy with, actually. It came together quite fast for me, and I thought that was good. So we'll leave that where it is. And let's find a piece of rag, which I've got here somewhere. Put that brush down. We might need that again shortly. I'm going to come in with a medium. I say a medium. It's quite a small filbert. So I'm going to look at my water. My water is towards the end of the day. You can see the gold in the reeds. You can see a low light in the water. And I need that medium light here to be dark enough to throw out the whites in the bird, but then not too dark that I can't see the lovely blues in the shade of the bird. So you've got to be a little careful how you go about that. Colour wise, I'm going to look at some cobalt blue. Need to make a fair amount of it, and probably have to remix anyway. Some of this green turquoise colour. I'm just going to look at it. Don't know if it's what I want yet, and I'm going to come in with some zinc white just to take that back a little way. We're still way too blue of where I want to be, and the white is not powerful enough to disturb it. So let's come in. Maybe, I don't know if I want more of that or not. I'm going to come in with a little bit of orange. Believe it or not, that works to kill off the blue in the blue, believe it or not. And if I come in with a lot of white, now we're starting to cook with the colours that we need, because it's not. I'm going to put a bit of green into that, maybe all of that green, maybe all of that green, and a tap more orange, and I think we're starting to get somewhere close, because it is a greenish blue, but there's also a touch of orangey yellow in that, and I think that there is not far off. Let's just see how dark that is. It's quite dark. Let's see if we can take the value up another notch without weakening it too much. Maybe a tap more orange in there too. Don't want to make it complete orange or brown. I think we're probably closer to it there. Okay, I'm going to go with that anyway. If I'm wrong, then I can go over it. I'm going to paint the area around the bird, and I'm going to leave the outline of the bird to show. I love some of my paintings to have outlines. I know it's a bit crazy, and I know it's not always the right thing. It's just I like it, and it's not my style as such. It's just the way I like to see paintings of mine go sometimes. Sometimes I achieve that, sometimes I fall way past the mark and get nowhere near it. So I'm just going to carry on with this colour. I quite like it, actually. Gotta be said. It's not quite the colour of the water in the photo, but there again, who's to say it wasn't that colour? The photo can have some degrees of variance within it, because after all it is a printed form. It is not me standing on the side. I'm going to put a little bit of Naples yellow into that blue at the bottom, and it will just sort of give it a change and a variety of colour. A little bit of grubbiness going on, I don't know what that is, a bit of skin of something come off the tube. I'm just going to play around with some of these colours, and like I did, if you remember, with the Sissinghurst picture and the flowers in the vase, almost doing the same sort of thing here, picking up and tapping in varieties of colour, and it's the negative space that I'm using to display it. I just don't want to get and form a funny colour just around the bird and picking it out, so I'm trying to blend this away and make it an overall variance and not just around the bird. And if this is starting to work here, I can still pop in over the top of the water with some darks, but I want to suggest little gaps that I can create. Now there's still going to be some oatmeal canvas popping through this, and I've got to say I am not in the slightest worried by that. In fact, I quite like having or seeing some of that popping back in, like so. It will help with the overall picture. Take that to there. There's quite a bit of dark up in there, so I'll wipe some of that back and have a little glug. Okay, there's 20 watching, but I know there's not 20 who have said something in the comments, so if any of you out there watching haven't introduced yourself and fancy saying hi to me, that would be fantastic too. It's really nice to see who's watching. I do know some of my other students that are maybe a little shy. You know who you are. If you're there watching secretly, just pop in and say hello on the chat. It'll be great to know. And I know some of you watch on TVs, and it's not so easy to tap into a chat line on a TV. In fact, I'm not even sure if you've got the ability to do that. But if you have and you want to say hi, then just say hi and let me know who you are. Be great. Great to welcome you and to watch. Right. Let us carry on. I should actually go to a bigger brush, but I haven't done. And I ought to have done a little bit more work up in here, so I might just rub some of that back. Like so. And before I come back down in there, I will take that up and away in terms of the water and all the way up to the top. I'm going to make it paler, a little yellower, greener. No, that's a bit too much green, I think. I'm going to come in with a bit more Naples yellow and a bit more white. Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to come back in as a variance on the water here, taking it down almost to the head, but not around that way, because again then the darker blue will create a vignette around the bird, and I've got to avoid that. It's an easy trap around a subject to fall into, is to bring something down and work it around here, and all of a sudden you've got this little outline of the bird in a different colour, and it makes the bird look as though you've cut it out of a magazine and stuck it on a painting, and it just really doesn't work out that way. So we have some water with some colour variations working within it. I quite like that. If I am bringing some of this down here, I'm going to bring it through to there, up, and then underneath the beak too, so it's a continuation. Don't want to do too much because there are some lovely colours working in and around here, so I don't want to lose too much of that. Bring some of the darker ones back in one or two places. As I say, there is this large void of blue, but I think also it helps with the overall composition. This is why I chose this, because it was just a simple L-shaped design which is compositionally beautiful to see, and that's why I went for it. But I wasn't sure whether to really go on a narrow canvas, but I like this this oatmeal colour, this natural canvas. I love it, and all the time I get my hands on this I keep painting on it because I think it's just a wonderful canvas to use. And it's not just one brand. I mean, this happens to be a brand I can get my hands on, or having said that, it's in short supply right now, but normally get your hands on. But in whatever country you're watching in, I am sure that there are manufacturers in your country that do a very, very similar product that you can enjoy too. Natural canvas is natural canvas, and so don't sort of get hung up over it. I just like the surface as a lovely natural mid-tone in which to start developing colours upon. Susan Lynn Bannon, good evening to you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for saying hi. Connor too, thank you very much. Why you would paint the reeds first rather than do the background and then paint them on. The thing about trying to paint the reeds on top of this light colour is I want very dark reeds, Connor. And if I try and paint over this totally, then all I'm going to end up is milky grey reeds, not punchy darks. So I've suggested them and suggested some negative space, and then hopefully there'll be enough for me to go back in and plant the colours that I need to suggest the reeds finally at the end. So these reeds are not the all of it, they are merely a suggestion and the start of it. So hopefully we're going to get enough dark ones by the spaces that I've left to come back on. It would have been, I could have come in and painted some more. Indeed, I might well do before I bring this colour all the way through. I may well come back in and do it. I just want to get this area blocked in as best I can. And I'm still using too small a brush, if honest. And that's coloured up. Let's come in with a, I haven't got too many out tonight. I must have another one up here. In fact, there you go, one of my favourites. Let's come back with a dagger. Much trusted friend. The dagger, a little bit more blue, a bit more green. Play around with that colour. That is so much quicker. Why I was struggling with that small brush, I will never know. There we go. Now we can cover some ground in a speedier fashion. Look at that. Just really cracks it in. A bit more of the green and a little tap of the orange is missing out of the equation. Put some of that back in. There we are. I don't want all the water to be the same colour or value, but the values will be very close. It's just the chroma or the colour will vary ever so slightly between areas, so you get a variance in the water surface. And I want it to get a little greener, a little lighter down here, so I'm coming in with more Naples yellow. Take that across. The only thing with the oatmeal canvas is sometimes, because it's the surface is the way it is, it can be a little difficult sometimes to fill in, and you get lots of little patchy areas. Now sometimes they don't matter, and I don't mind them sometimes. Other times I really want just a solid colour, and therefore I have to sort of work on the brush 2 or 3 times over it to get it to fill in and cover where I want it to. You'll see it all over, and it doesn't matter how hard you try, you will not cover it all in the fashion that you think you will. On a different surface it will happen. On a natural cotton duck surface, then it will cover so much easier. I'm just going to come around there. Got to come too close with some of that colour, and I want to change it. There you go. So yeah, let's just crack on and get this done, then I can start working on the detail. So I am leaving some of this for the moment, and hopefully then the reasons for it will become more obvious. But it is negative painting, and I find it when you've got a lot of very small dark objects, or again if it's the other way like the flowers a couple of weeks ago that I did, where you have very small bright objects but many of them, then working them as negative sequences will be better than trying to paint over. But like I said with this one at the start, if you want to paint this and let the background or the water part of it dry first and then come back in and tackle the darker reeds, that's another way through. But this is an alla prima. This is painting all in one session, which is what alla prima is about, and it's a start to finish without coming back for another session later on. Okay, I'll leave that there. I will take this water through here, and I have made it degrees lighter. So the reason for that is, yes, it is getting lighter as it comes down, but that will also help me pump out the dark of the reeds. Put a bit more fluid to that. It's stiffening up a little bit. Colin, good evening to you, sir. You got back all right? Safe trip, I assume. Teresa, good evening. No worries about being late. Good to have you on board. Nice to hear from you, Colin. I hope you've done an awful lot of drawing in the 2 days since you've been back. No, 1 day. Sorry, you've only been back 1 day, haven't you? From when my memory serves me. Right, so just take that down and start looking. It's a lovely colour green. It's really quite less blue and more green the more I look at it. So I'm going to stick with this lighter value, and I'm going to put some there. Now I don't want to come in here to, I want to, but I know if I do that I'm going to end up with paint all over me. So I'm just going to come up in here and tap away like this, which is going to be quite suggestive of, sorry about that, somebody sent a message. If anyone, does any of you have a Macintosh, and in particular that want somebody who uses the diary aspect of, you know, the calendar within Macintosh? Because if you do, I'd love to hear from you, because I've got mine all set up with what I need to do each week now. I've been really good at that. But the thing is that certainly when you've got something like this going on, every moment you get one of these bing, and it's the notification. So that if anyone knows how to silence that notification, that would be great to know. Thank you very much. Other than that, let's carry on with the painting. I'm just gonna, I said I was gonna leave this and I've just forgotten and just gone in a bit more. No big problems at all. Okay, I'm going to leave that at that point. Clean this brush because I think this is going to be instrumental, this dagger, to doing some thinner marks with the dark. So I'm going to come in and mix up a lot of dark. I think I just saw Luke turn up. Well done, Luke. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Hope you've had a great weekend, and I hope you've seen lots of trains. I'm sure you have. I'm going to put a bit of orange into my blue, and that will really mess it up. I'm using orange, and I'm using phthalo blue, and I'm going to put a bit of the green into that. Bit of red into that too, just to take it down a little bit to a dark, but that's too dark, too green, I mean, not too dark. So where do I want to take that? I want to come back out of there. I want to put in some more blue, and I want to put in some umber, and that will take it down to a darker than I had it, and that will allow me then to enrich it with some oranges and warm values further on. So I'm going to take this colour as a dominant colour. Now, going back to Connor. Connor, you were talking about how to control. Here I am going to put on the dark all over first, because I will be putting some lighter values over the top. Now, if you are succinct with your brush marks and not keep working them, then you can put light over dark very, very easily. It's when you come to do the other, you cause yourself a problem. Now here I've got some bits over the bird itself. I'm not going to put those in just yet. I'm just going to carry on working a little bit warmer, a little bit more orange. Don't want to turn it to the green. I just want it that rich amber colour that we're seeing in some of these marks. And I'm just going to come up with some stubby reeds, a little bit more red, a little bit more orange. Make those, and these oranges and warm values in these reeds will work beautifully. I really mean that, against the blue greens, because there's reds and blues and oranges and greens. It will all have an effect. Coming with a little stronger orange. Bring those in. And the little spaces of white that you see, I hope, will become little taps of the water further on. I'm not sure if this will work. I hope. My experience suggests that it should do, and all things being equal, it will work. But there is never an absolute guarantee. We just hope that I've got it about right. Couple of light ones. You see, I can go over that with a quick mark, but they are weaker than down here because they are picking up some of those lights underneath them. There's not a lot I can do about it. I've got to work with it. There, for instance, that was quite a dark piece. What happened was that because I went over that first, that's my dark, but on doing that it picked up a lot of this, so when I came down here there was already a lot of white into the mixture, and that's why I lost it. That's why it went pale there and not there. Okay. It's fine though, we're doing quite nicely with it. I'm going to leave some of this. I want to put some punchier lights in later on. So I'm just coming back this side of the bird and start working some of these shapes up through here and see where we want to take those. And they're quite dark in there, but a little warm side, so we get some of those orange working later on. Through here, it's solid to about there, isn't it? And make that sort of solid ground, and then we will make that dark in there, which will then throw out some of the lighter ones further in. And we need to make a real dark here. That's sort of where the water's edge is. So these are warmer values. I'm going to come in with some dark umbers, a bit of the blue, and we're coming with a very dark base to this, of which we can then warm or cool accordingly. And I'm just going to start bringing negatives back down there, or positive actually, positive, negative. I don't know who destroyed this one, because they're warmer and deeper, and they're coming almost down In fact, by the time they get down to here, we need a lot more dark down here to reflect all of this. And this is why I do not think we get too much of the bird showing. Something like that. A bit more orange and red coming to that, and just to warm up some of these colours. Now you could be very, very detailed and create a lot of actual realism in terms of marks and shapes, but I deal with a sense of as opposed to actuals. A little bit of yellow coming into some of these, not too much, I don't want to turn them too yellowish, just orangey and bright and deep, reflecting that evening light. I do want to sort of make them a little bit more softer as they come down here, and two, I will make the water softer as well. There we go. Well, there's a on the Mac, go into System Preferences, Notification Colors, scroll down, there are some tick boxes at the bottom, says play sound notifications, simply uncheck. Hopefully that's it. John, you're a star, mate, thank you very much. It's fine, I don't mind them, and it often can be a very good reminder. Of course, that's what it's for, but by the same token, when I'm doing something like this, it's awful to have it come up when I am streaming, and it's a little bit too annoying, and it's not very nice for everybody else to have to listen to every 5 minutes, and there are rather a lot of them. And just putting these cross bits in, there's a little bit of sort of light and dark kind of come over, and it's going to work. I know this is going to work against me a little bit. I'm prepared for that, because by trying to bring some of the blues across there, it's going to contaminate with the darks and it's going to mess up a little bit. But it is merely an indication. I just want the sense of everything. It's a good deal of the painting is this, so we're going to carry on. I'm going to put a few of these here, then I'm going to come in with the more of the water, and the same down here, of course. Like so. Make that taper down to almost nothing at that point. And we've got really dark in here, and I will have to come back into some of those. And then, like we did here, we can actually bring the white or the sky up, the water down, but we can go over some of those if we're careful. We won't get deep dark marks, but on some of them they can be a little bit fly away and softer. So I don't think that's a big issue. I just want to get the bulk of these in place so that we've got something that looks about right. It's not quite straggly, some of the growth habits of some of these reeds. You see there, it's picking up so much blue that it's turning instant grey, and you lose the punch of these parts in here right at the water. Where they go after that, it's not too much of a problem. I just need the dark to be intense, and that's why I lightened up this water around it. Okay, another glug is needed. I'm drying out fast. We had 21 of you watching. That's really nice. Thank you. And Wendy, take a note in case I'm a bit busy tomorrow or the next day, but I think there'll be certainly one, if not two, new patrons coming online in the next day or so. So if you keep an eye, that'd be fantastic. If I miss welcoming them straight away, maybe you would jump into that for me. That'd be very kind. Thank you. Right. I talked to Leora yesterday or the day before. She sends her best, and she's really quite busy with some pastels at the moment. So that's what's kept her away from the the streaming. I'm sure once she's done though, she'll be back with us watching. Bring some of them down here like so. You see, by doing that, I picked up that and deposited there and made that area quite grey.
I'm on it.
I'm sorry. I'm following this on my iPad and Siri decided to ask me a question, or thought I was asking it a question. I think I need to control that as well, John. Bit of annoyance, isn't it? And I'm just going to put in a couple of little taps in there and there. Alright, I'm going to leave that part there, and I'm going to clean this brush out again. And let's do that, and let's come in with some more of this light colour. Really lovely, love this colour. As I say, I'm going to come back in, and now I'm using the same sort of action as creating these by tapping the end and a little tap down to give me a sense of the area around them. And turn this upside down and almost draw into some of the finer little taps in here like so. Try and keep them clean. If you find that you're picking up too much of the dark, then just come out, redo your brush, reload it, just come back in, be a little bit careful. But there we are, we have those being isolated now like so. And if you feel that you need to add some more back in, that's hopefully not going to be too much of a problem. They will go grayer as I've shown and described, but essentially you will have enough of the darks in place already, and those lights that you need, you can just tap them back in at will and not have too much problem in doing so. But I assure you, if you try to put the darks over the lights later without this all being dried up first, you will have nothing but bother, and you'll end up with milky, insignificant reeds against the light, and the light will not be light, it will be a murky, dirty brown, and you'll wish you'd done something different, probably waited until the first layer had been dry. You've got to be very sort of deliberate in not overworking any of these blue values as they come in. Try, if you can, to make them one tap in. Leaving some of the horizontal that are bending over the top like so. So you've got almost a bar to paint around. Picked up a little bit of dark there, not that good, but not a problem. Yeah, exactly what's been happening with me and Siri. Just been suddenly starts talking to me, which is fine. And another one of those notifications, peeps. I do apologise. I will try and take John's advice and see if I can't isolate that situation by the time I stream to you on Friday. So I'm working this negative space. This is no different a style of painting to that of, as I said earlier, the Sissinghurst pictures, both of them. The one that I did for my Instagram stream and offers, and also the one I did for you guys as a stream. It's the same process, maybe a bit more complex, but it is still very much the same process and approach to the situation. It takes a little bit more, but probably a lot quicker than waiting for the first layer to dry and coming back the next day. You're not going to achieve as much that way as you're going to get it done this way. And I think this way also, if I'm honest with you, is a little fresher. It's a little bit more responsive, immediate. it sort of has a different feel. When you have something that is absolutely bone dry underneath, and it really doesn't matter too much about what you do on top, because it will lay there uncontaminated and unchallenged by the colour underneath, then I think that you get too deliberate with shape and form. It's not spontaneous, it's not so fresh. And this way I just feel that you have that freshness about the softness, and I quite like it to that degree. So I have not painted this in this fashion for a long while, and I can't remember, other than, as I say, repeating myself, the Sissinghurst picture last time I did, but it is certainly nice to come back to it and paint in this fashion, because it does give you just a softness and a freshness about the work you're doing. Tapping a few more down in here. Now, I said I can paint light over dark, and I can. Proving it, there you go. I can just tap it in. Don't keep working. If I keep working that, it will go grey. But I can just tap in little bits like that that will become more suggestive of marks. Make this a little wetter, start to stiffen up. Oh, some in there and there. And let's look up this area, because we're still out. A bit lighter around there. Don't go too light up there, because I want the white of the bird to really show. It may be that I come a little bit darker, if anything, other than lighter. But here I can be light, because I want the bird's darker plumes to really show up. So I can have light here, and this is something that is called counter change. I'm deliberately playing around with the values in front of the bird over those at the back of the bird. And I will come back in here and probably play around with that just a tad more than I've got. And basically all I'm doing is making it possible that I can see light against dark, both front and back of bird. Where the lights change on the bird, so too the corresponding light will change in the reverse in the background immediately next to the bird, and just away a little bit. And it's a great divisive method to sort of making things stand out and show up. But if you want something to be softly lit, then you would actually make tones very carefully close here. If I didn't really want you to look at the dark here and I wanted it, I could put the dark in front. So I can manipulate the picture in that way. I can make you, the viewer, see or lead you around the picture as I wish, if I get it right. And so can you. Steve, I've been restoring an 18th century oil. Steve, good on you, mate. Are you local to me, or are you a long, long way away? And do you do this restoration as a business, or is this just as a hobby? I ask you because in my gallery I am often being approached by people who are looking for professional restorers. I never know where to send any of them, to be honest with you. I refer them to a knowledgeable gentleman who runs an art auction near to me, but I don't know if he actually has any ideas more than I do. But yeah, so that's worth thinking about. Sylvia, good evening to you. What do you mean, me again evening? Nice to have you on board, Sylvia. Just little taps in here. Nice little tap in there would be good, and in there. Where the water is just popping through some little openings in here. Now don't forget I've got these little bits of area that are going across as well. I'm going to wait to put those in, just not rush into them just yet. Want to try and savour some of that for a bit later on. Come down here and finish that off. Bit more tapping around here. How are we doing for time anyway? Oh, we're not even at an hour yet. We're doing ever so well tonight. That's good. I bet we still end up closer to 2 hours though. Right. Like the way that this blue's gone in. Just freshen it up a little bit or grey others area out. Just play around with that so it doesn't look like it does look so it's fresh. That's what I'm trying to get to. Bring some of them together. See how easy it is to pick up the dark, and by doing too much of that you will destroy the freshness of your water. So you've got to be a little bit canny over it. Okay, we'll live with that. A stronger light in there would be good. I'll bring that down, down. I'll mix another batch of colour up because I am scratching around with it and it's not helping. The blue, quite a bit of white in there, and that needs to be a little bit more yellow into that. Test it too light, so come back in, darken it up, bit of orange, bit of that, 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 bit of that again, and check it out, too orange, so we need a bit of that, bit of that. I'm being very silly. Never mind. A little bit of orange. Still not working out how I want it. A little bit more blue into that and see if that makes a difference. Making a sludgy grey, which is not what I want. So I've gone wrong somewhere in my mix. So I'm going to come back in with a bit of orange in there. And a bit more of the green I think is what was needed. A bit of white. I've got plenty to finish the job now. I can go all the way into next week with this lot. There we go. It's not far off. It's not quite right. There we are. I think we're about where we should be. This is where painting with enough prepared pigment really can help. I think it's going off a little bit. I'm still not happy with the mix. I think I'm going to have to live with it because I'm not going to get back to where I wanted to be. No, I've gone the other way with it, I think, if anything. Okay, let's just take that down here. Let's take some orange in and some Naples yellow and a lot more of the green. Where are we now? Oh, we're still not this colour, so I don't know where I'm going wrong with it. I do apologise. I will get to it. I will get there in the end. That's getting a bit back to where it was. Okay, I've got a big stiff old brush of stuff on there now. I'm just going to wipe some of that away. Come in with some more blue. Right. Now don't make this too wet up in here. You can see my blue has changed a little, and I don't know quite why. Whether I'm picking up a bit of ultramarine in there, I don't know. Just come back with that. Wrong white. I'll make enough to paint the walls in a minute. Right, I'm going to have to probably live with it, I think, because I'm getting nowhere fast except use exorbitant amounts of paint up, and it's just beating me. I think maybe there's contamination in bits that is just picking up enough to change everything from where I want it. Just the odd little white or light coming in here, and this will work nicely. Just a little tap here and there. like so, and down to the bottom. Right. Okay, well, I don't know anybody local to me down here, Steve, so if you DM me, don't expect anything coming up instantly, but I did have somebody last week, as it happened, ask me, and I just didn't know the answers. But if you are up for people, I'm sure they can talk to you. They may think Shropshire's too far, I don't know. But at least I can have your details in the gallery and at least give them a name, and it's then up to them to make contact if it's of interest. So don't sit there waiting, holding your breath, but I will be delighted to pass on your info to other people. One or two taps down under there and there and down in here. Just one or two extra ones that I will put in later on too, just to refine what I've done so far. So essentially we are there. I actually haven't done any in here, so I'm just going to play around with the ideas in here. Some of these colours. So little taps, that's all it needs. Alright, I wanted to make an area a little bit darker. I think actually that's probably dark enough, so I'm going to leave it for the moment. I'm not going to be rushing into it, but I do feel another glug coming on. I'm quite liking the way that this is setting up. We've got this nice dark around the top. We're coming down to a lighter value down through here and under here. But what it's doing is it's concentrating the darks to be very dark. And without sort of ramming it down your throats, that's why it wouldn't have worked putting it onto a light subject. Now you're going to see more of that now, because I'm going to put one or two of them over deliberately. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to stop right there for a second. I want to put in a darker value of blue and the green to suggest those little ripply bits. I think they're either ripples from birds that have gone through, maybe some ducks or something have just gone through. Doesn't really matter what they are, but they do give a slight variation and a very distinct indication that we've got water and nothing more. So just putting them in, just gently tapping them through. Doesn't matter if they form an exact line, I'm not too worried about that. I just want them to be almost totally horizontal, and they will disappear in here without further trace. There are one or two areas up the back here which I'm just going to suggest a few dashes of the horizontal dashes that suggest movement in the water beyond and tells the viewer that it is water and not a sky. You'd be amazed, people look at something like this and they just actually gravitate thinking that it's sky. So by doing something like this, I hope that they don't see them as clouds. I hope not. No, I think it's good enough as water. Okay. It doesn't take a lot, but it's just nice to have a little bit in there. Alright, a little bit more down through here. Got to be careful I don't mess this all up. And I'm going to actually put in, I'm not too sure if this will work, I think it will. So I'm going to put in a few sort of wispy bits of darker blue as the sort of, some of these reeds are giving way to the blueness of the water. I think it might just help marry the two areas together. That's something like that. to break through there. Now I do want to do what I said about this sort of soft and dry movement of water across. I'm going to pick up a little bit of paint and just try one or two just to see if I can make it happen. Just a little. In a way it's working. I'm not 100% sure about it. But I can't leave it at one, I've got to do more. Just trying to drag through a light touch. Just suggesting. It's dirtying everything that it touches, but we knew it would do that. Just breaks up the ripples, or it breaks up the reflections somewhat, which is quite nice. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I can always come back and do some more, but I want to come and return now to the reeds themselves. Cheers, Luke, you're a good man. I'll send you the tip later. Right, just more. I'm using different edges to this to suggest them. Quick little taps. Now if I keep doing it all the time, they will go grey. I don't want that to happen, so I'm being very careful that I recharge my brush after a few taps. I want some of them to be quite warm, so I'm going to bring some of the oranges over the greens so that they start creating other things. And here you see natural positive space being used now to isolate some of those larger areas of light that I put in to the ripples, to the reed bed. So it's a case of yin and yanging, isn't it? It's a case of a bit here, a bit here, a bit in this area, a bit in this area, and just changing what you're doing to make it work. I'll put a couple of taller pieces in like so, which work. Maybe some of those nice warm ones in here coming up towards the bed, picking up some light from the evening. Quite thick and quite dark in this part here, so I want to come in down here. Don't want to obliterate all the water, but I want it quite dark in there. So I'm going to come in and mix a bit more dark up before I go any further. A bit too blue, a bit more umber into that. So we can play around with some darks in here too, like this. So you can see some of that water colour has got into my brush in the root. And that's where you wash it out, and you don't wash it thoroughly enough, or at least dry it thoroughly enough. I tell my students about this all the time, and I'm doing it myself on this occasion. When you wash your brush out, especially if you're running from warm to cool or light to dark values, then dry your brush thoroughly, because the zesty or the oil in the cleaner will remain in the root of the brush, very, very fluidic, and it will travel down as and when you are trying to render a dark or opposite tone or value or etc. All of those things. So just be aware of that. Just thoroughly dry your brush out. As I say, I am guilty of it tonight, and I often tell my students off for doing the very same thing. Okay, I'm just going to come down here with a few values here. And one or two down through here. And there are going to be some sharp ones put in. Some real humdingers of oranges and strong lights and darks and warm values in some of these reeds. Like that. Really picking up some evening light, and then they correspond to one or two that I'm putting in here to make that work too. Oh, stretch. Now let's work on some of this area and just refine some of these shapes and marks, make a few more of some, make them work and connect them. They are quite dark in the photo, but that's good. They are dark. They need to be dark, but unfortunately the thing about photographs is it doesn't, or is unable to see too many color variants between lights and darks. If it sees something that's predominantly light, it throws everything else much darker, and that's why you can't take the perfect sunset, because the intensity of the sunset really just makes all the ground silhouetted. If you want to see and you register the light meter for the ground, it just blows out the sky to a pale nothingness, and that's what I'm trying to drive at, that the two don't work well. And so it is good to maybe have this a little lighter, and suggested that it doesn't have to be quite as heavy, but at the same time mindful that it does need to be somewhat silhouetted against all that water, that bright water anyway. Make sure some of these, like there's a couple here that sort of dance over the top, little dark line that sort of suggested that the stem is either been broken or can't take, it's grown long enough and it can't support itself anymore. So you get little variants in shapes and the way that these are working. And also don't forget, to some degree you got some repetition in the opposing way, like that one will sort of maybe just suggest a little shape like that that corresponds in the water, and wherever you do that then you do the same sort of thing. This brush is starting to feel age. I know how it feels. And it's just gonna, don't want to make that too wet, just trying to, the bristles are starting to get chewed up a little bit. They're not as good as they were when it was new, but I've been using this brush quite a while now, so it won't be long before it sort of gets put down a notch and used for other jobs, not necessarily the fine work that I need this one to be doing. Now, if anyone is a birder and wants to go to Dungeness Lakes at the moment, my son who works for the RSPB is working down at the moment, excuse me, he said there is a glossy ibis down there. So if you fancy seeing that, then you need to hot foot it down there and have a look. Okay, let's bring in one or two of these in to play. Making a bit more of this lot here. Now you can see by that continual movement that I'm picking up light over dark. But down here it really, it's important not to do too much of it, but it does actually help to have some of that, because it sort of blurs the areas between the reeds and the water, the reflections, and the area that's not being reflected as such. Just breaks it up a little bit. I'm going to cross one or two of these marks that I put in. Just little taps now, they're sort of softer, fudged up as it were. Little taps, a little bit of warmth from orange and red into one or two of these coming off of here. Just displaying a little bit more warmth in the evening. And that reacts beautifully with the blues and the water. I'm just tapping one or two colours because I'm going to put some corresponding light marks up in here that tend to suggest that that's what the reflections are all for. A little bit of Indian yellow and a bit of orange. It is quite contaminated, not pure, but it's just going to brighten up some of the orange marks there and suggest these are catching. These are the sort of bits of reeds that are this side of the bank that the egret is standing on, and they are catching a little bit of light from the evening sun, like so, and they will need to have corresponding, trying to work it out, corresponding taps of light and stuff going on in here too. Yes, that's another way of doing it. As you say, that little turn of the fish in the water will work very, very well with a little change. But I could do that. I don't want to do it in this one because I just want the evening, the serenity of the evening, I think, more than anything else. I just love the peacefulness. I love going to Oare. Actually, we worked out, I haven't actually been to Oare Marshes since 2011 or 13, I'm not sure, but it's a very long time ago since I've been over there. I used to go over with Catherine a lot. I had a camper van then, and that was like a portable studio. It was really great, lots of fun. Just put a little bit of light into one or two of these here. And yeah, we had a lot of fun with that, and we spent many times over Oare photographing, and we could have our tea, and we could have our own ablutions, because of course Oare doesn't actually have anything like that there. And yeah, it was a wonderful time. But unfortunately the poor old camper gave up the ghost in the end, and it went to somebody else who could take greater care of it and knew what they were doing when it comes to the repairs. And so we stopped going that way to Oare, and we must change that. We must get back over there. Used to love it with the camera, and they used to have a scope. Used to sketch some of the birds with the scope. It was a lot of fun too. Catching a few of those nice lights. We're going to sort of repeat down in here, just to give that water a nice sense. A little bit more than what's in the photograph. I'm not worried, because it just adds to the evening and the light and the lovely reflections in the water. So I'm quite happy at doing some of that. Like so. I'm going to take it all the way down, because we need something to sort of disappear in the darkness of the bottom of the water, where the mud is and it's wet. I'm going to leave some of that. I'm just going to come back and put one or two lights in there, just juicy little bits like so. We'll put that one there. I'll just suggest that one. A little tap or two there, we can repeat that. One or two marks in here that have so far been missed. Quite like that too. Okay. Now then, I suppose we ought to start thinking about painting the bird, hadn't I? Because here we are, 18 minutes past the hour, and I haven't actually started the bird. I'm going to clean my brush out thoroughly, and I'm going to put that one down. And I'm going to come in with a smaller, I did have one, where did that go? Excuse me. Well, that's a bit too small. I'm looking for a small, there we go, there's a small fill, but that's probably all I'll work with at the moment. And I want to clean off some of the palette. Way too much colour gone on there. I know I mixed a lot up, and I didn't really need to. Had I got the mix about right quicker, but I didn't, so a lot of paint really got wasted. Now had I another canvas to hand, I may have just, if it was a white one, I could have pre-coloured that, but the colour is not brilliant, so we've still got a bit of the blue left if we need it to top or change anything, so it's not completely lost. I haven't wiped it all away, just enough to carry on with. Get rid of that, clean my hands, covered in pale blue paint. Right, onwards. Now then. I've lost the brush now. What on earth am I doing? Come on. Well, we use this one. This is a long filbert. A lot of fun actually, the long filberts. To that I'm going to put in a little pure bit of white, and to, excuse me, the pure white, I'm going to put in some Cad Yellow Deep. Now that's Indian Yellow. I'm going to come in here to a little tap of Cad Yellow Deep, influence that white to that degree. Nice warm white. I'm going to come in. Now you're going to see, I hope, how the white will punch against that blue, if I've done it right. And that will come round the side, losing the majority of the dark mark. I'm not too worried if we leave a little bit. I prefer to leave none on this occasion, so I'm just working it into the blue just a little bit, and then come down, down, down to the back. And you can see here, I'm going to have to use a rest, which I've got in here somewhere. Where have I put that? Totally disorganised tonight. I did have a piece of wood that was acting as a rest. There it is. Okay, I knew I had one. So I'm just going to rest on here and bridge so I don't touch too much of the paint. So there we are, we're back in with a lovely, brilliant white, which is influenced with yellow, like so, and it comes up to there. We've got a little bit of shadow to come in on the inside of that. I'm just looking to see where my dark mark ends, so that come almost into the blue of the water. And then down, very strong angle and sharp. Now if I feel that the water isn't dark enough, I can always come back in and darken that, but I think on the whole it's not so bad. Suggesting over there, and then strong whites to come all the way down through here. And ignoring that little bit of grass that comes through, I can replace it like so. Lovely, all the way down and into the grasses in a straight line, because you've got the tail below there. So that's what we're going to do with that. A little bit more yellow on the front end, and I'm going to use a tap of that red in there, make it a little salmonish colour as that comes down here and warms up in the glow of the evening on the white on the part of the bird there. Back to some of that white up here, sort of hybrid between the two. Nice strong light colours. Okay, not coming over too far with it now, just a little bit more. Get rid of some of that darkness created by the weave of the material, so you get a pure light and not having it degraded by those areas. And then we're going to stop there. We're going to leave that in case we need it, but let's come back in now. Let's mix up for our shadow colour. For that we're going to be using some ultramarine blue, some white of course, and I'm going to use some rose madder, which is an influence, but it is a very strong red, but it's not as strong because it is a transparent colour, so it doesn't carry the clout of an opaque, but nonetheless it's going to have a big impact on what we do. Now I'm going to tap in also, dirty it a bit. I'm going to tap in a little bit of orange to this side of that blue. It will affect the blue because orange and blue are complementary. Put them together and they'll try heavily to annihilate each other, and that's what I wanted to do. I want to take it off the pure purple area and come back down here with a soft exchange between the light and the dark, and the orange is just going to tip the balance towards the dirty in here. Very strong, deep, dark, maybe a little bit more of the blue in there against the orange, making it stronger. And where are we? Losing myself back in here. Okay, and let that come all the way down and it will disappear into the reeds. And there's going to be a little exchange here which we've got to play around with. We've got another dark area up in here, so I want that orange. I may even put a bit of red in to that and throw it out even more. See what that looks like when it's in place. Just use that to rest on. I'll tap in there under the chin. Not much. It's gone a little higher. I can come back on that. I'm not really worried. Just want to have that little square but very, very dark accent right in there against that water. Against the water there. Just a little darker if I can make that happen. Perfect. I like that. Okay, we're going to bring the same idea through here. Tapping around and down. And this is where I wanted the water light on this side, so that it will show up the chest of my bird and down dark into the plumes. Now again, like I said here, if I want this darker to make this lighter, I can darken it. If I want this lighter to make this darker, I can lighten it. It's a trade-off. I'm going to put that there as a soft bleed between the two. And I'm going to come in with that lovely violet to finish this area off. It comes almost up to there and starts to get a little shadowy in there. Okay, and bring that down, 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 and into the chest of the bird that's coming down and around here. But it then gets very, very dark. So they're going to come in some more of the blue. A strong orange and red to influence that, darken it down, make that very, very dark, but we're using the same colors, so that will give us a lovely shadow color, but using the same constituent colors to make it. So there's a harmony and a relationship in those colors. Let's take that off and we'll come over the top with other grasses and stuff further in. I want to punch a little bit of dark up under here where there is the plume is just jutting out from the tummy, as it were, and just do that. Then I'll work over some of those plume areas in a little while. So now I've got to start tying up the loose ends on this. Excuse me, it's very, very dry in here tonight. Alright, I thought I had a rigger around somewhere. There we are, I thought I saw one. Okay, I'm using a rigger now and I'm just going to tease some of the elements together here, just make them a little softer. And I'm deliberately trying to pick up some of the blues. In fact, I can deliberately do that by putting my brush into some of the blue too. And fudge some of the areas between the two so that you get the shadow softly going into the light and vice versa. Some of them are quite hard marks, but the majority of them are quite soft, like so. And we can then come in with some of these just to lighten up, suggest some of the plumes a little lighter, a little bluer. Like so, and I can work some of the light of the water back in, so I'm glad I kept some of that. Nice little soft turn over there, and it does need to be a bit bluer, I think. I'm going to come back in and just play around with that. Got a little bit dirty at that point. I want to make it a bit bluer. That's better. Much better. Like so. Paul, good evening to you. Not a problem, mate. Good to see you. Just coming down here and suggesting a bit more dark coming down. That will show up some of these lovely plumes on the chest. And I want to get the dark beak in, so I'm going to use some umber and some blue. Let's just go for the beak right away. No messing around. I hope we don't mess it up. And nice sharp beak to there. And it's got slightly deeper mandible at the bottom. I'm just going to put a nice definite mark through like so into the eye area. Just tidy up my mark without making a mess. Easy just to tap too much. There we go. That's good. Happy with that. And it's very hard to see at this distance, but there is a lovely little yellow, what I call a sear, it's what's called a sear, around the top of the head to the eye. And I'm just putting that in. And then we've got this beautiful, I'm going to use some, and maybe I should have used that on the reflect. I think I ought to. I may change a decision on how I am perceiving the front shadows. And I'm going to put in a little bit more green and a darker blue just over here anyway to darken the head off against the water. Maybe a little bit more darker blue at the top. Coming down into that beak and the sear. As I say, you can't actually see too much of that yellow, but it is there and it runs around the whole of the eye. So I'm just what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit here and then a little tap of the yellow light there. It's catching the sun at that point. That works. And then let's come back in with the white. And let's take that out from the throat and the beak, which extends out to here. So take it into the eye and down this way into the throat. And there's a little shadow of colour that comes out through there. I'll reinforce that in a minute. No, I won't. I'll do it right now. No. There we go. And just want to lessen the shape of the eye there, so I'm going to make that smaller, a bit too big. Let's bring that into there. Okay. I'm going to make the back of the eye a nice shape there. Bring that down. It's quite bright. If I can make that quite bright without making it overtly yellow, and I'm just going to bring that shape down there, which into the eye and the eye socket, like that. Little taps, that's all I'm doing at this stage, very little taps just to suggest what I need to happen. Not so bad. I still feel that the eye is too big, so I think what I'm going to do is just tap this a little more and reduce that just a bit further down to there. Okay, but in doing so I just made a mark one too many this way, so I'm just going to take that just a little further back to there and darken the eye, a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, just to darken the centre of the eye. Now I've gone too far at the bottom, you can see a little mark that I've just left. I just need to take that out. There we go. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. I think I'm going to keep looking at it. And this is the whole thing about painting. You keep examining what you've done, you keep checking and seeing what that is. A hair, I think. No, it's a bit more than that now. We'll repair that in a moment. I think there's a hair on my brush. Yes, there's one of my dog's hairs, would you believe? You get everywhere. Alright, so I'm going to repair this where that hair was just now. It's going to come up here. Right, so probably a slightly better shape to the beak too, if I'm honest. And I will repair the water in a moment. But I do want to come in with some of that pale blue colour just to do some negative spaces in here on these lovely little feathers that are forming the bird's beautiful chest. And that's all it needs doing, just enough to display them. A little bit of light under there would be good too, just to throw out that dark shadow. That works. And where are we on the back? I think the back's probably dark enough. Do I muck about with it anymore? Well, probably I shouldn't, but you know what I'm like, I will. I'm going to regret this, I know, but I'm just playing around with just a very slightly darker value on this area back in here. And let that come up and just really, I think I'm glad I've done it, because look at how that suddenly, that slightly deeper value of water, which I'm actually taking through. I can repair any of these other bits that I want to later. It's not a problem. But darkening down the back here like so, it's suddenly throwing out this bird. Its white plumage is just gone up a level. And that's what I'm saying. If you want something to appear lighter, make everything around it appear darker, and it will work. And I'm just trying to, I might have to come in with a bigger brush to make this less obvious as a mix out, but you get the idea. And I'm just going to tap in against there, like so. Enough of that. Let's just play around, check that colour before I start messing it around, so we can just take that away and blend that out. Take that to there, blend some of this back out. Okay, not bad, I hope. Not too bad anyway. I've run out of water, so that's not so brilliant. Alright, so what else do I want to do? Well, I am going to warm up some of this area here. I'll put a little bit of cad red into that green. Just turn that green to a sort of a funny green, I suppose, a warmer green. Would that be right? I don't know. Just tapping that in, just fudging the edges down between where it's starting to go into shade and the wing is just softening against the light. There's a little bit of finger painting, never hurt anybody. I want to do the same up in the top here, just smudge those two areas together a little bit. Just tapping off some of the information between the two areas. Okay, that's good enough. Now I'm going to marry the base here, oranges, the warms, and bring some of these shapes over the bird like so. And this is really where it starts coming into its own. These oranges will work against the blues in the bird and on the water. Some of them will be darker. Couple will come, now this one we had come over, so I'm going to try and put that back in. I feel like I'm a putter. So I ought to really do it from here, and I like that. There you go, just got away with that one, I think. I don't want to put this one that goes across up to the beak. I don't want to disturb any of this area, so I'm going to leave that one out. Just going to put maybe a piece here and a piece here, and one or two longer pieces that just gently, very softly going across the scene like so, just to break it all up like that. One or two this way, just stronger darks against some of those lights. And we're really sort of coming in for the end of it now. To lay it that way over, and little flicks of the brush. This is why the rigger really can come into its own. Cheers, Luke, as well. He does, but mine hasn't. Ben, stop it. He may have a bit in a minute. You're going to make me look at that now. I'm going to have a look at that. Right, just a few gentle flicks just to bring a few final bits into this. Just vary out some of the shapes and the forms into the air. Break them up a little bit more. Maybe one or two little fuzzy bits coming down in here. Just breaking some of these shapes up. Now these need to be a bit longer down through here, a couple of them. One or two that are leaves that are sort of laying through this. There's sort of some that are laying quite horizontal, not quite, but almost. You get the idea. And there's not too many coming this way in that fashion. I just want to sort of make some of these softer in here, moulding with the water more. I think that's too bad at all as it goes. And I'm going to put Ben's black leg coming down into there. I think you're right, Ben. It needed putting in, so I'm going to put a little dark leg in there. Can't see too much of it, but I'm saying it goes up and into the body just a little bit there. Got to be able to stand on something, of course. That little bit of dark on here is missing. I'm going to put that back in. A little bit of dark blue, a little bit of dark in there. Tap that up and leave that. And I want to make this got a little bit lost in here, a little bit darker in there, in that shadow. Just in there. And that goes up into the throat there. So by doing that, I need just to make this a little darker here again. It's getting the level of that dark about right. It's very deceiving. And at the same time, I need to just take that hook off there. It's a little too hooky. So I want to soften that bit of the throat into there and there. Take that down a little bit lighter. There you go. I think we're pretty much done. There's a little linear delineation on the front of the wing as it's being held. It's not that obvious, but it is there, so I'll put that in. And the dark underneath is not as dark as it should be. I'm going to come in here and make a real dark up with the blues and the orange. Just want to come in here and just set this up a little better into that leg and down. That's right, Glennis, I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm just going to put one or two more taps of light blue into some of these shapes, getting close to the water, but some of them are correspondingly. Not all small, some quite big. Put one in there and just make that come off there like so. Something that the brain can hook into and pay reference to, like that. And you can see roughly, it's not exactly the same, but the eye goes to it. You see a shape here, you see a similar shape there, and your eye will go to it and fix on it, and that's great. A little tap in there, a little tap in there. It's almost like doing butterfly wings. You tap there and your corresponding tap there, and there are little registration points that the eye can really hold on to. A light in there and a bit of light in there. And do we need any more? Probably not a lot more, if I'm honest. Just playing around with bits of it now. And I love the sort of the blues and oranges. This has always fascinated me in painting, is the complementaries at work. Getting them right and getting that negative positive space working for you. Like so. That leg's a little better defined now. Take that light up into there. One or two more taps and we'll be done. One or two coming out here that correspond. Okay, just drag a little bit more material of light through there on one or two of these bars that I put in. Just blur some of the edges. Soften some of the effects down here in the reflections. Just one or two darker little soft edge areas, just picking up a bit more dark down here, so ripples and stuff in the slightly darker than the light water, but not too dark, just suggesting variations in the flow of the water all the way through, especially maybe down here. I can put a nice piece that just picks up a bit of dirt, transplants it to somewhere else. Okay, and we're almost done. you'll be pleased to know. And just one or two shapes down through here. Blurring some of these out, deliberately so, like so. Now then, I'm going to deliberately pick up a bit of the darker brown, and I'm going to run the reflections this way on some of these, so you get the light passing through, but you also get a little bit of the dark passing through, like so. And it just confuses the eye, but it does make a lovely sense of waterness. Watery effect, whatever. I think it just works. I'm just picking up a little bit, not overdoing it, just enough so it looks like it's the water's just turned a bit and giving you a bit of the reflection of some of the bits of reed out there, like so. Don't want to go too much more, just a bit. Okay, I can look at that in the cool light of day and see if we like that. Okay, so now then I will just do my normal signature in the bottom. I'm going to leave that, I'm going to put it down here, so I'm going to come in with a paler blue. I'm just going to put it down here. Try and make it as inconspicuous as I can. It's about the painting, not about my signature. And I've always felt that. There you go. Alright, so that's there but not there. It can form part of the painting in a sense. A little bit of dust got in there. Take that off. Alright, I think we're done. I'm happy with the result, and I've enjoyed this. And where are we? Almost at 2 hours, so we're not done too badly at all, really. So yeah, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun. I particularly like this little area around here, got to be said. Just that beautiful oranges against the blues of the bird, and they seem to be working quite well. But I think I achieved what I wanted. I cut off a bit of the back behind the bird, deliberately so that I could make it work into the wider, deeper board and still have enough to stop short here, as per the photograph. If I'd have wanted more from the bird, it would have put the bird probably a little bit just off center, but getting close to the center of the board. Here it has importance, and it creates this lovely L-shaped design, which is it is important to have a nice dynamic in a painting, and this creates this lovely dynamic. So it worked very well from that point of view. Paul, thank you, mate. Brilliant, absolutely gorgeous. Cheers. No, that's welcome. Thank you so much. Sue, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And as you say, it's those colours, isn't it? It's that peacefulness of the light and the evening. And all can be so beautiful. I've seen the water absolutely blood orange all the way through and into the background. It is just an awesome place to go. Awesome, sorry, excuse the pun, but it is an awesome place to go to. Unfortunately, you do need to be aware that there are no toilet facilities there, unfortunately. So if you can get over that, but there is a darn good pub at the end of the road. You can go there too, but you do need to book it up. It's very popular. But anyway, yeah, there we are. One egret. I don't think it's that bad. I'm just going to tap in something that I've just seen. Little bits. You just see little bits, don't you? And come back with my little stick, and I just want to take that up there and round that up a little bit more to there. Soften that shape down there. Okay, that is better. But I wanted a stronger white there. Punch that white in. Now I've lost the eye. Oh dear. Never gets any better, does it? I always do something wrong. There we go. Just got to put that little tap back in there. There we are. Alright, all's well. I just wanted to change a little on the shadow and light on the head, and that was all I needed to do. Derek, good evening. Oh, did I say good evening to you at the start? I hope I did, mate. But good evening, and thank you for joining me. And Keith, thank you very much. You might have to give ours a go. Well, I hope you do, mate. And that'll be great. That'll be great. So, is everybody else there? Colin, you still there? Glennis, you still about? And all our other people that were watching. We lost a couple, but we're still quite strong at 19. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun with this one. I've got to say, I enjoyed it. Now, I'm not sure what to do for a watercolour this week, so if anyone's got any ideas that what they would like me to paint for Friday in watercolour, please put them in the comments section or send me a private message or whatever you want to do. Get in touch, email me, let me know. It's all good. And if it's something I fancy doing, when I hear the idea, I'll go for it. And we can do something. So yes, I mean, apart from airbrushing, John, I'm not airbrushing pictures yet, just yet. Takes a bit of planning, something like that. But anyway, all of you who are watching, if you are watching this and you're not subscribers to my channel, please, 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 please subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you a penny to do that, but it does help me grow my audience around the world as a YouTuber and as a channel content creator. That's fantastic. If you like it, press that like button, share it with your friends. If you've got friends who are painters who think they might like this, let them know about it. Let them go on their computers, let them see what I do, and I'm sure they'll get something from my work. And if all else, also comment. Please do that too. They'll always be answered under each video that you see. Don't forget, Friday is the next live stream. I do 2 a week, Monday and Friday, 1 oil, 1 watercolour, both at 7 o'clock London time. And there is also a video that comes up every Friday as a matter for my YouTube. And then don't forget, there is also Patreon. If you want to become a patron, take a look. The details are normally under one of my videos. To jump across to the Patreon page, check it out. It's all different levels and tiers, and it costs you nothing more than a coffee or 2 coffees a month, depending on what level you get involved with. But you'd be most welcome, and you know by doing so that you're helping me fund all the cost involved in content creation, making these videos for you. They don't happen just like that. They have to be thought about, worked about, and created and then executed on the night, as well as the filming. So if you would like to get involved with my Patreon, know by doing so that you also get an awful lot more from me in terms of content, videos. You have a link through Facebook. We have a personal private Facebook page for my patrons. Lots of ways to get involved, and it doesn't cost you much to get all that information, so it's worth having a look. So with that all said, I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to go and grab a beer and relax for what's left of the evening. And John, no, not straight off, man. No, I'll have to wait. I'll tell you when I will do one. I won't do one in this room because it's just, I haven't got the ability. I can't spray without a mouth guard on. It's not so easy. So when I get my when I get a booster, which I'm working on at the moment, to put the Wi-Fi out in my train room where my flat lay is and all my other filming stuff is, then I might consider doing an evening stream there by doing something with an airbrush, but it won't be in here, I'm afraid. There's just not enough room for it. Good night, Paul. Thank you very much, mate. Take care, everybody. Have fun. Stay safe. Get painting. Have a go at this one. And I know I keep saying it, Teresa, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I meant to have done it already. Note to self, must put some reference up on Patreon for you guys to download. I can't ask you to have a go at these if you got no reference to have a go with. So I do apologise. I will set to that. And I know that Wendy will, in a lovely way, make sure it gets done. She'll keep having a go at me until it does get done. So there you go. Alright, I'm just having a clean up. I'll leave the chat running for a few more minutes while you guys say goodbye to everybody. Glennis, good evening to you. And Keith, good evening to you, sir. I'll see you Wednesday, as I will see Wendy Wednesday. Ben, good night to you. Hope you enjoyed Saturday, mate. It was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that. We had a good chat as well. It was a really interesting morning. Right, just having a clean up. Oh, I just stuck my brush in my drink. Susan, thank you very much. I hope to see you again, Susan. Hope you join us on Friday and for other streams. And don't forget all the other bits that I said about. Worth looking into. I think I've cleaned them all out. No, there's one there I've missed. And the amount of spraying acrylics is very minor. Painting will require a few hours. And it is, and it will be quite a while. Actually, I've never painted an airbrush myself. Well, I've done it. It's not that simple. And a lot of the times, if you're freehanding it, John, it's not so bad. If I was going to do one, I would freehand it. I'm not one of these airbrush people that would. I've never gotten into cutting tons of masks. I might use a piece of card just to give a cut mask like that, but I wouldn't actually. Oily drink, yeah, I know. Look at that. One oily drink coming up. Yuck. That'll have to go in the dishwasher and I'll get another one out. Never mind. It'll be okay on the night. Anyway, people, we are winding down. It's gone the 2 hours and we are dropping off. People are going and doing other things. So I am going to turn this off in a couple of minutes and say goodnight to you all. Bye! You still there, Wendy? I shall say good night to you. Yeah, I'm sure you're still about there. Cheers, Ben. Good one.